Hey, it's Ethan here at eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the eTrailer Hitch Cargo Carrier and how it fits on a 2021 Mazda CX-5. With the CX-5, we have a decent amount of storage in the back, and we have the ability to fold the second row of seats down to get some more storage, but you have those filled up with people, and the back does get filled up pretty quickly. A Hitch Cargo Carrier like this one is a great way to get some items from inside, outside, especially if they're muddy or sandy or dirty. Anything that you don't want making a mess inside your vehicle, this is a really solid way to get it outside. So let's check out a little bit more about how it works. The thing that really sets this carrier apart is the fact that it not only tilts down, but it also folds up to store more closely to your vehicle. So I'll show you that in just a second, but let's get into a little bit more about the look and the construction of the carrier. So first, we're going to note that it is a black powder coat steel construction. So it is a little bit heavy and it is a little bulky, but it's still able to support up to 500 pounds of weight. You'll note that on the top there is a rail that goes all the way around, as well as plenty of places to put your straps and tie downs throughout. The bed of the carrier is made of a nice mesh material, so it's strong and sturdy, but there's plenty of space for your mess to fall through, which is one of the benefits of using a Hitch Cargo Carrier like I mentioned before. One benefit and takeaway of this carrier is how far it sticks out from the back of our vehicle. So I'll measure that and give you an idea of just how far that is. So from the bumper to the furthest point out, it's going to be just over 41 inches. So it does add quite a bit of space to the back of the vehicle. I mentioned that that is both a pro and a con because it does stick out so far. We don't have a breakover point when we're loading up our items. So I can open up the hatch, and at no point does it cross over the threshold to where the items are going to be stored. So you can store as many items as high as you want as long as you stay within that weight capacity. It's a con, obviously, just because you're adding a good amount of length to an already semi-long vehicle. If you want to know what the ground clearance is, there is a little bit of a rise in the shank. The CX-5 sits a little bit low, but from the ground to the furthest point back is going to be just under 12 inches, keeping in mind that once you start loading the carrier up with items, you're going to get less and less of that ground clearance. So if you get up to that 500-pound area, you're going to be sinking down just a little bit more. One thing that I did mention is that the carrier can tilt down if you want to. I find that with the CX-5 it sits low enough, it doesn't even go up to my kneecaps, that if I wanted to load items in there, I wouldn't really tilt it because you will have to push or pull the items back up and get them into place to secure that. So it's kind of more hassle than I need to for this case. But I will show you how to fold it up to save a little bit of that space. If we wanted to tilt it down, we'd have to remove both of these pins. To fold it up, we just have to remove this bottom one, starting with the clip. Then you might have to lift up on the rack a little bit to get that pin out. And it is a little bit heavy and it doesn't do a lot of the work for you. So I like to go to the back, fold it up, and then we can come back down, find where the hole lines up, and replace the pin and the clip. And now we can get some new measurements to see how much space we've saved. I'll measure from the bumper again to the furthest point back. In this case right here, that's going to be about 16.5 inches. So we cut our distance by over half. If you want to know the closest point that it sits, we'll measure from the bumper to right here. And that's going to give us a measurement of just over 6 inches. So it doesn't sit super close, and it doesn't have a ton of movement towards the vehicle, so I'm not super concerned with it making contact there. From here we can see that the carrier is bulky like I mentioned before. From straight on, the license plate is going to be at least partially obstructed by the mesh, but there definitely are windows that you can see it. Your backup camera is right in the middle, so it's definitely going to be heavily obscured by the carrier. You might be able to see bits and pieces through the mesh, but you're definitely going to know that it's back there. It doesn't come quite tall enough to mess with our taillights too much unless you're looking at it from below, and it also sits lower than our rear window. If you want it, you will have an optional light kit and optional reflectors that you can add to it, whether it's down or up, to get you a little bit more visibility on the back. To those kits, if you have wiring on your vehicle already, the light kit is definitely a really solid option, or if you plan on adding it on in the future. Otherwise, I'd go with the reflectors personally. They're a really solid option and a way to let people behind you know that you have something on the back of your vehicle. The carrier uses a 2-inch shank. Here you can see that rise as it fits into our 2-inch receiver tube, held in place by this anti-rattle bolt, flange nut on the other side, and the clip that keeps everything in place. You will need a socket wrench to get that in place, 3/4 inch socket wrench. And you can see here on the shank, there's also this collar that you can adjust to fit into your shank or before your shank. So once you line up your pinholes, you won't have to do it more than once. Overall, this eTrailer Hitch Cargo Carrier is a really solid option if you need something that is pretty large storage-wise, but also has the ability to tilt down if you need help loading up some items, or fold up if you want to save some of that space. I will say if you like the amount of storage and the weight capacity that this offers, but maybe you don't need the ability to tilt it or fold it, you can check out some of Flint Hill Goods cargo carriers. They're just going to be a little bit lighter and a little bit easier to work with. But again, if you do need that modularity, the ability to fold it up when you're not using it, the eTrailer Hitch Cargo Carrier is definitely a really solid choice. This again was just a look at how it fits on our 2021 Mazda CX-5.